Good morning, everyone. It's Sam again with NATP, and I am joined today with Eric Green. You might recognize
Mhm.
his face or at least his voice. Eric is a big part of the NATP family. Eric has done a lot of webinars, a lot of courses with us. We've got some exciting news to talk about a little bit later this morning, Eric. But first of all, how are you?
We're doing fine. We're doing fine. How's everything in lovely Wisconsin?
We're good. We had a first snowfall up here in Appleton the other
Wow.
weekend, and it was a little I don't know how to feel about it yet. I'm not ready. So
Mhm. Right.
but we're getting by.
Good.
Um yeah. So Eric, we are here to talk today about the topic of representation and how things have changed from COVID. You have said many times that this is going to be an area where tax pros can really dive in, maybe expand their services, help their clients more, become more of that well-rounded financial asset. And so, just to start, from you personally, from your experience, how far or how has your business changed its practices due to COVID?
Um, well, one of the silver linings of COVID, if there, forgetting about the pure business generating aspect of it,
Yeah.
which we'll get to, it is training clients who used to think, I have to see you in person. I have to see you in person. To now, it's no one's fighting with us about doing a Zoom call, doing a video chat, doing a phone conference. Um, and so I think in many ways, one, it's gotten our clients trained that they don't need to physically sit with us.
Mhm.
That we can work like this. The other thing that's interesting is it's also forced the firm to make sure we can work from anywhere because our folks can work from anywhere. And it's been it's been interesting because we had some partners that were no, very old school that now embrace the technology.
Mhm, mhm.
So
Which
we keep rolling along, but it's I think what it's done, if I had to sum it up quickly, is it's forced it's forced people to reconsider where we were heading anyway, but it's sped it up.
mhm. Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that. It's kind of been one of those things that's on the horizon that everyone knew someday we should probably get this in place and ready to go, and now you just kinda have to do it.
Right.
And let's back up a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do, at Tax Rep Network?
All right. Yeah, the law firm is Green and Sklar's, and Tax Rep Network grew out of accountants who heard us speak, who wanted to build their own representation practices. Literally, it started with a CPA who was in the town next to us here in Connecticut, who came up to me after one of the talks and said, "I'd pay you if you would teach me to do this." Which led to building out a training program, which ultimately would become CCH's IRS Representation Certificate Program. But it has now grown into a large community. We have CPAs and EAs actually all over the world, licensed folks in Israel, Paris, Guam, who are members. And the focus is it's very much like an ATP. We do training and we're a help desk. I mean, so, folks can contact us and consult. And whereas before we were doing retainer agreements, now it's a monthly membership. And in fact, today we do a monthly Q&A, open Q&A with our members, where we're going to review the questions that came in and just do live Q&A. So it's been very fun watching people grow their practices. But so Tax Rep really is an online community where we coach and help them build their IRS representation practice.
Awesome. And just to recap or bring it back one step even further, when you talk about representation, you mean representing a client as a tax professional before the IRS. Is that correct?
Yes, and I would
Okay.
suggest everybody, every NATP member does IRS representation, even if they don't realize they're doing it. If you respond to a letter, if you talk to somebody at the, that's representation. It doesn't have to be controversy in a courtroom with Department of Justice criminal. I mean, we do that too, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about audits, appeals, audit reconsiderations, doubt as to liability offers, things that they can do to help their clients straighten out problems, resolve issues, compromise back tax debts, get penalty abatement, all of that, which is, I bet many of them are doing day in and day out and don't think of it as representation.
Yeah. So next question for you. It looks like actually we might,
Oh, that's better.
let's see. I know that I'm stalling. We might have a little hiccup. I've got some notes that things are not showing up on Facebook. So we might not be live. We might be. We are going to take a quick little break. I'm going to stop streaming and we will be right back if this is live with everyone. So we will be right back. All right, we are back, everyone. Sorry about that. For a moment, we had a little hiccup as we are all adjusting to this new work atmosphere and environment. So Eric, just to recap then, we were talking about representation and why it is probably not probably it is going to be a growing area for tax pros to expand their business. And so specifically related to COVID, are there any circumstances that are related to COVID as to why this is happening as well?
Well, yes. So we, at TaxCon, actually, I spoke to people. I made the comment, which is over the summer we are in what I would call, if you know the old sailing ships, the doldrums. There's no current and there's no wind, but we know it's coming. It's the deep breath before the plunge. Businesses that have been pushed over the edge due to coronavirus. Often, sadly, what follows from that are marriages breaking up. Most Americans, sadly, pay 19 tax dollars with 20 income. And when all of a sudden income vanishes, now they can't pay. And so what I told everyone was, nothing's really going to happen until October 15th. People are going to hold out. And what's going to happen on October 15th is people are going to file and have balances, and we're all going to get bombarded. The government at some point is going to grind back to life and start enforcement, or people are going to go unfiled and become non-filers, because if they don't file, the government doesn't know and they can't do anything. And I got a whole slew of emails from people at TaxCon saying, when do you think this is all going to happen? And I said, October 15th is when the phones will light up. The government probably will not do anything harsh until after the election, because I'm sure that the IRS will be put under pressure to not drop the hammer on people who are about to go to the polls and vote. So, all right, which, by the way, I'm not picking on any one government. Every 4 years this happens, right? They tend to back off right before the election.
Yeah, we've seen it.
And so October 15th, we would get, and for this is slow for us, we were getting 2 or 3 new clients a week over the summer. We got 19 on the 15th that called to pay for consults. On Friday, right after the 15th, IRS criminal dropped. We got 9 calls on new criminal cases. They went out and literally knocked on doors and handed subpoenas to taxpayers or accountants. So it's starting. I mean, so to give it very quick, the landscape before coronavirus. So December 31st of 19, there were over 15 million accounts in collection. That's 11.8 million in the active inventory of the IRS and 3.2 million that had been sent to private debt collection. So over 15 million in collection, and 10 million non-filers that the IRS already knew about. And so there was a TIGDA report that came out in the spring that said IRS is dropping the ball. Why aren't they going after these people, many of whom are high earners? And Chuck Reddick, the commissioner, said, oh, no, we're going after them. So that was before coronavirus. And then you have the study that was put out by Tax Practice Advisor, where they came back 100,000 people surveyed, 1 in 3 won't be able to pay their 19 taxes due to coronavirus. Add to that sales tax. All the states are going to be looking for the sales tax from these businesses. I think we're going to see a wave of work. And this is an opportunity for practitioners. And there are two sides of this. One is a time to shine and actually help people who are in distress, right? And a lot of this is understanding the process, explaining it to them. They might be uncollectible, maybe they can compromise, helping taxpayers, helping people. And it's also a massive wave of business, there's an opportunity now to create an entirely new revenue stream and do a lot of good for taxpayers. Who, by the way, we're also gonna see a massive number of fly-by-night people on late-night TV taking people's money. Mm-hmm. The scammers always come along at the same time.
Interesting. Do you have any tips how to differentiate yourself from a scammer then? How do you make yourself seem as legitimate as you are?
Well, so here's what I tell our tax rep members, and what I would tell anyone. We don't do free consultations. And there's always a concern, well, they're going to pay. Here's what we tell the potential clients. Say, look, first of all, the fact that we're physically here and have an office makes them already more comfortable. They'd rather, now before coronavirus, I would say they'd love to come here, drink our coffee, breathe our air, but we're real human beings in their community that they can drive, see, meet with, which already gives us an advantage. And what we would tell people is say, look, we charge $500 for the consult, but here's what we need. Your income, you're this. We give them a checklist, and what we tell them is we want to review this because otherwise, what's the consult worth? So these organizations that say we can settle for pennies on the dollar, they have no idea what they can do. That is a marketing pitch. And what I said, before you spend $5,000, $8,000, $10,000 on an offer that may not work, let's spend $500, figure out what we can and can't do. And at that point, listen, we're going to do an offer which we charge $5,000 and our members are getting $5,000 for. I knocked the $500 off. So it's $4,500. But let's do this before, because what I tell them is we have better things to do with our limited time. You have better things to do with your limited money than throw offers at a wall and see what sticks. And I have to tell you, I think clients appreciate that. They are willing to pay the $500. In fact, we've actually gone much higher now because we're getting that bombarded. But they'd rather do that and know they're dealing with a real person than give someone a credit card over a phone and some disembodied voice.
100%. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the partnership between NATP and Tax Rep Network. So we were super excited to announce this. NATP is now a partnership with Eric and Tax Rep Network. And with that comes some benefits for NATP members. Eric, would you like to talk about that for a little bit?
Well, yeah. So, for the last several years, we in NATP have sort of wandered into the shallow end of the pool. We've done, 8-hour programming and a bunch of programming, and we've been adding it to the TaxCon, the national conference. And I think what we find is, to me, and there are lots of benefits to NATP, but the biggest thing about NATP that I'm always blown away by is the help desk. And so, Sam, you and I usually do this live, in the back corner of the building. So I'm actually in Appleton, and I walk by the help desk folks who are helping people, whether it's research, answering questions. And when we first spoke about this partnership, we're doing some of the training. NATP does not do that kind of support in this area, but Tax Rep does. And so what we said is, look, we can, I think, offers and we put together a special deal for NATP members where they get a discounted price for an extended period, more than we would ever offer, with the goal being it allows people to go through the training, start, any marketing, or look at our checklists, our downloads, and really kick the tires and make sure this is something they want to do, elevate their practice, and it gives them a chance to actually spend time in tax rep, because the one problem we found is there's a lot and it gets overwhelming. So we literally created a video, start here. So when you get into, because there's over 100 hours of training videos, there's got to be 50 checklists and downloads for your practice. There's the monthly Q&As and all this stuff, and people like, where do you begin? And so we literally said, start here, right? And here's what we would suggest. You kind of start, diving into this. So whether you've never done representation, and you're just a new EA or a CPA, and now you're like, look, I think there's a business opportunity. How do I get up to speed? Or you're someone who's been doing this a long time and just wants to see what we've got for letters and our checklists, and there's training in a particular area. So it really runs the gamut. And when I learned to do this, I'm going to age myself. There were these things you just learn by doing. There were no courses on this, and so there were these things, kids, that were called people who worked at the government that you could speak to. Not anymore, but there were. And so I go. It's a funny story if we have a moment. But I have one of my estate planning. I did about 90% estate planning when I went out on my own for the first time 20 something years ago. And I go in, I have a client that gets into trouble. He said, go just negotiate with them. I'm a lawyer, I'm supposed to do this. I went in, and he's now retired. It was a revenue officer, Jim. And I'm sitting opposite him. He is poker face. And I'm going through this whole story, and he sat there and he said, you have no idea what you're doing, do you? And I laughed. I'm like, it's that obvious? He said, Eric. It was Attorney Green. He still did that till the day he retired. Attorney Green. He said, you have to get them into compliance. There's no deal without compliance. What's compliance? Okay, let's back up. And he walked me through what that was. And you learned by doing. You learned from the IRS trained you. I mean, effectively, I got trained by the revenue officers. I got trained by the IRS examiners. Eric, this isn't good. What I need to see from you is, and they would walk you through what they wanted, and I would go back to the client and say, hey, here's what we need to do. Like, I'm an expert. And, it would work out that way. Now, 23 years later, the advantage I have is we've seen lots of crazy stuff, right? So those weird off the rails type of things, we've kind of seen. And then there are sometimes we get cases, by the way, all of us here, and I have a partner who's former DOJ, former chief counsel is joining us this week. I mean, we've got people that have done this for 40 years, and we get a case and we all look at each other like, what the hell do we do with this, right? But there are rules. Get them into compliance, and we follow the roadmap, and eventually we get to where we need to be. Mm-hmm. And so, unfortunately, the problem with so much automation and staffing cuts, the need for representation has gone up, and it's much more difficult for a new generation. And new generation could be at any age who's now diving into representation to learn the way I did, because they're just not around. There's just not that many people. We at one point had 19 appeals officers in Connecticut. Today, we have 4. Wow. So getting it in person is almost impossible. Forget about coronavirus. Getting it in person is almost impossible. They're mostly new. And so it's more difficult. And I think that what tax rep can do is bridge that gap for the training, and also just when you get your first case, oh my God, what I tell them is do the checklist. Thank you very much. Let me think about this. I'll get back to you. As they walk out the door, you go to your computer, to the help desk. Eric, what the hell do I do with this? And we schedule a call, and you can even upload documents, and we review the case with you. Mm-hmm. I mean, it really is a coaching program. It's designed for you for the practitioner to be able to do this comfortably in their office. Even if they're a solo, they have a 20-person law firm backing them up. They're not alone.
That's so awesome. what a great resource to, for people who are on their own. You don't have, we say this all the time, you don't have to know everything. You just have to know where to look for resources. And it's
Right.
really exciting that you guys are now a partner and now a huge resource for all of our members. And speaking of, and non-members as well, but speaking of that, you are also doing a webinar coming up about representation, and it's free for members. And it's
Yep.
talking again about the fallout of COVID and really what tax pros should be doing. Is that
Right.
correct? Okay.
Right. So yeah, what we did is we designed it's a 2 hour kind. We're calling it a luncheon, depending on which coast you're on. Maybe slightly after lunch, a little bit of an early lunch, but we're doing it during lunch. And what we're going to cover is one, some of the where were we? What is the fallout from this? And we're going to talk about the things that they can what do we think they're going to see? A lot of people coming in probably with smallish balances from
Mhm.
the just 19. But then you're going to have a lot of non-filers. What do you do with the non-filers that show up? Because now somebody went and knocked on their door, and now they're in full blown panic, right?
Mhm.
You have couples that are getting divorced, married filing separate versus joint, innocent spouse issues, and payroll issues. So it's not going to be a deep dive into any one area. It's going to be here's what we're sort of expecting. And by the way, NATP has a lot of this already. We've done a payroll
Mhm.
a payroll webinar that is in your library. We've done innocent spouse, we've done penalty abatement, we've done 8 hours on exam and 8 hours on collection. So if it's really they want to do, they can join tax rep. That's wonderful. But the NATP, we already have designed a lot of these resources. So if this is of interest, go into the NATP, the university there. I call it the
Mhm.
university, the
Yeah.
online learning.
Yep.
Um, and then when if you really want to dive in and get our checklist and letters and everything, you can join tax rep through that NATP deal.
Mhm.
And I think it's going to be exciting. I think people are going to be excited to add this because, to my mind, even if you don't want to focus on it, it's better to feel comfortable knowing I can deal with a call from the IRS on a collection case. I know enough that I'm not going to be intimidated. But also, I got to tell you, most of our members have found their 1040 practices have grown. And here's why. Taxpayers like the fact that you represent people before the IRS. If there's a problem, I like that you can handle this
Mhm.
versus my other practitioner who can barely fill out the form. So there's sort of an image of the gunslinger.
Mhm.
We don't really fight with the government very much. I mean, it's a formula, right? We all know the
Yeah.
rules and we get to the rules. But there's an image of, I know that my person, the woman who does my returns, she can handle this. If there's a problem or an audit letter, we're in the right place.
Mhm. Right, it adds value to your services and gives your clients yet another reason to keep coming back. Absolutely. Um, so last question for you. I want to kind of jump ahead to the 2021 tax season, which is right around the corner. It just seems like we wrapped everything up and here we go again. But what are some of the biggest hurdles you see tax pros facing in this next coming tax season? And then, so what are the hurdles and is there any advice you have for overcoming those?
Um, so here's to walk through. Here's what I think is going to happen.
Hmm.
The government, whether it's November 5th, whether it's January 1st, um, the gloves are going to come off. By the way, it may be the state that leads it. Connecticut is already going after people. Illinois, I've gotten calls from folks in Chicago, is getting very aggressive. The states are broke. This has been devastating to businesses. So the gloves are going to come off. You have businesses that are sort of on the edge. Even with the CARES Act, we can defer the payroll. The goal is in January, you start making your current payroll and start paying the back. And I don't want to get political, I don't believe the coronavirus is going away anytime soon. Even if they get a vaccine, by the time they get it up and get it out, I think you're going to see us suffering through what they're calling a dark winter. I think we are going to see businesses that have not failed fail. Business owners are going to be going unpaid. Taxpayers will go unbanked. Um, and so I think tax season is going to be a mix of folk. Well, first of all, I would be urging people to get in uh, more quickly. Um, in the sense that let's try to get everything done, and if there's a need, we have time instead of waiting till the summer. But I'm wondering how many people will not come in
Mm,
because they're going to hide.
yep.
Um, the breakup of a business or marriage or both. You're going to watch clients dissolve. The other thing is you may suddenly find new clients who are now very desperate, who I'm not coming in and want to work through this. I need this done now. And the reason being is I'm a non-filer and somebody left a business card in my front door. And now all of a sudden I've had to tell, and I don't mean to be sexist, I've had to tell my wife, yeah, no, we haven't filed in 5 years and we probably owe six figures.
Hmm.
We get a lot of that. And that does not go down well,
Yeah.
as you can imagine.
Yeah.
My wife would not be happy about that to her.
No.
She probably wouldn't be my wife. So it's I think we're going to see it kind of a lot of craziness. And so what I'd be thinking about a couple things, just for your own practice, get people in as early as possible. Um, get people trying to um, see where they are. And even if you don't do this for them, check and see where their payroll is. Check and see where their sales tax is. If they're not, because sometimes business owners do this themselves, or they have it outsourced to somebody else. If not that you need more work during tax season, I would try to see where that all of that stands. The other thing is, if you are interested in this work, make sure that your clients are aware that you do this. We have one of my first tax rep members did it's actually in our tax rep area, a one-page newsletter to his own clients, what to do if you can't pay the taxes. And very, very practical. Let's get the return filed, save 25% failure to file penalty, right? We can work out an arrangement. Maybe you're uncollectible. Generated $150,000 of business from one letter to his existing 400 plus 1040 clients. And what he got a lot of was, I didn't know you do this. My brother has a problem. My son now tells me he hasn't paid the sales tax. Can you help him?
Hmm.
You don't have to be on TV and radio and have budgets for marketing. Let people know you do this. And it's like build it and they will come. Let people know that you do this. People will come.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining me, Eric. I really appreciate it. It was so fun to talk to you as always. And to plug your webinar again, people can still sign up and register. It is free for members, non-members. Um, there is a fee, and it will be November 3rd, 12 Central. So whatever that correlates to in your time zone, it's 2 hours, 12 to 2 Central time. Um, and we are really looking forward to it. It's going to be full of great information for anyone who is at all curious about the fallout of COVID and really what to expect in this next year in regards to representation. Eric, is there anything else you want to add?
Um, no, other than from a personal note, please stay safe. For some reason, there seems to be this dichotomy. People think it's going away. It's not going away. But one, please stay safe. Um, and if there is any questions, reach out to the NATP or reach out to us. We're happy to help.
Definitely. Well, I would like to echo that too. Stay safe, everyone. As always, it's wonderful to see everyone, and we will talk to you next time. Thanks again, Eric. Bye.
Thank you.